Hey moms, it's Nakimi. Welcome to the channel and space for single moms navigating motherhood. And as always, we do not bash the baby daddies because, well, we are here now. If you are new to the channel, welcome. We talk about all things regarding single mothers. I am a huge advocate for mental health of single mothers. So if you like that kind of content, please subscribe and also hit the like button. So today, guys, we are going to be talking about emotional abuse. Yep, emotional abuse and how it impacts your mental health. Okay. Specifically, I want to talk about the other parent that is not doing their fair share but creates drama. They create drama and or they make it very difficult for you to do your job. Okay. Now, the specific type of dad that I'm talking about or other parent that I'm talking about, you may have a situation where, say, for instance, they are on child support. You know, some of those men just won't work, so they don't have to pay it. Crazy, right? They will do that just to spite the mother. And it in turns hurt those kids. And we always talk about on my channel about mental health, and especially if you are a struggling single mother, right? Then you have some men that are put on child support and maybe they fall on hard times or they don't really make a lot of money. So the child support that you do get, it's not like it's really life-changing, but you appreciate it when you get it, right? And with that, let's just say maybe you're getting $120 a month or $200 a month, and it's a low amount, right? And especially in today's economy. Say, for instance, that's what you're getting, but the parent, the dad really shows no motivation to do any better, right? There's not... It's almost as if I'm going to pay that, but I'm not going to do anything else outside of that amount, knowing that that amount is not enough. Yeah. Because, I mean, $200, let's just round it up to $200 a month for a child, an infant, that's maybe going to get you diapers for the month, maybe. Right? Older kids, it may be groceries for a week, depending on, if they're a growing teenager or a boy. Boys tend to eat a lot more, right? But we're not going to go down the rabbit hole of the amount. So let's just say you will have that situation and they don't do anything else outside of that. Okay. Maybe they are court ordered along with child support to get the child or children, every other weekend. They can see them once or twice a week. And, you guys alternate holidays and then maybe get them for the summers. And then you'll have situations where more often or more frequently, shall I say, when it's their weekend and they have something to do, they don't think that they should get a babysitter. They just tell you that they can't come get the kids. Just totally, negate your plans. Your plans don't matter, or just the mere fact that it's their time. That's what they're supposed to get the kid, and if they're not available, wouldn't it be their responsibility to get childcare, right? So now you have to cancel your plans because you don't have anyone to watch the kids on the weekend that you were supposed to have off. Right? That's a form of emotional abuse to me. The leverage or latitude that they have to just be able to get the kids whenever they want to. And if they don't want to get the kids, or I would say get the kids when they're court ordered to, but then if they don't want to get the kids, then it's just, oh, well. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. Or if they're not able to make the payments, right? Say, for instance, they lost their job. Anyone can fall on hard times. That's normally not the issue, right? But then it is, you don't try to do anything else to maybe ease the burden. Like, I know I'm not giving money right now, but let me go pick up the kids. I'll get them fed and homework done, and I'll give them a bath. So that way, when you get off, you guys can just continue with your night routine of, brushing your teeth and going to bed. Right? Simple. That thought process with these particular dads that I'm talking about, it just doesn't come up. It's just not, it's non-existent, right? Or another way is you ask that, he have the child home by a certain time because you guys have a schedule. And more frequently, instead of having the kid home by 8, they'll bring him home at night, 10, 11 o'clock at night. It's the lack of respect for what you have going on that is abusive, that is emotionally abusive. It is disrespectful. It is inconsiderate. And it can drive you crazy, right? It really can, because at the end of the day, when you are a single mom and you are already carrying the financial burden, you are carrying the load of the day-to-day activities, responsibilities. And then on top of that, the one person that should be helping you and down in the trenches with you has an excuse, more excuses than a person going to jail, And then when you get fed up and you're just like, I'm not going to answer the calls because I really don't feel like dealing with this anymore, then you're trying to keep the kid away from them, which I'm not an advocate of doing. I'm not an advocate of, if it's their weekend, you let the child go no matter how angry you are. But I think that we need to stop and look at that for just a second. Because I was looking at a post on social media. It was one of these social media outlets where the girl was saying that, that her kids just didn't need the dad because he's not really helping. And on top of that, he's just adding more stress to her life. And since she's not allowed him to see the kids, it's just a lot easier on her. And of course, the comment section was divided. Like, some people were saying, you should never take the kids away from their dad. Let them grow up and see who was the problem. And then some, people were on her side. And here's my take on it. I'm not a fan of the dad not being able to see the kids. But I am also not a fan of the mom having to undergo emotional abuse for the sake of saving his reputation whenever he wants to see the children. Because let's define parent here. Let's define what a parent is, and for those that may be confused, have a seat. When you are taking care of your kids, as a lot of men would say, right, it's more than just financial. It's all encompassing. So half of that child bills is your bill as the dad, right? You should know the teacher's name at the schools. You should be at the parent-teacher conferences or meet the teacher day. You should be there on the first day of school. You should be involved. That means the office should have your information. If they can't get a hold of mom, we're calling dad. In fact, we're going to call both of them. Because you should be requesting that if anything goes down, that they call you as well, right? If it's 30 days in a month, then 15 days you should have your children, and 15 days the mom should have the children. See, that's co-parenting. That's what parenting is. It's being thoroughly involved in what your children have going on. That means If the child is sick, if mom can't take off, you've got to be available. For doctor's appointments, you should know the pediatrician's name. You should be there, right? That's what parents do. Half of the clothes allowance should be split between you two, right? So if you're not doing that, then you're not sharing the load properly, right? So I'm not a fan of like moms having to just kind of like undergo emotional abuse and stress when they're doing it all pretty much 90% of the time. That can be stressful. And I don't think that people stop to look at when the mom is hyper vigilant, or she's, experiencing some type of mental breakdown or mental exhaustion, and the other parent is just being difficult. And I'm specifically talking about the men who are not doing what they're supposed to do, and it is like pulling teeth to get them to help with what they should be doing anyway, right? Then at what point do we stop and say, you know what? Mom's got to do what mom's got to do, because mom's got to be the one to take care of the babies. So I understood both sides, suffice to say, right? But that is a form of emotional abuse, and weaponizing, the position because you are the father and saying, well, she's keeping my kids away from me. And if that is true, right, I feel like men should be fighting for shared custody. Like you should be lawyering up as if it was a YSL RICO case and you were named as a co-defendant, right? Fight for your kids, and men have rights. And I don't think that is stressed enough either, because you do have some moms out here that just, they're bitter and angry, and they're taking it out on the dad when he is actually doing everything that he's supposed to do, but we're talking about the ones that are not, and they're making it difficult. Or you'll see where, they are spending all of their time or the majority of their free time with their homeboys or their new girlfriend, and their children have not been cared for yet. That can drive you insane as well. That could probably be disheartening as a mom, if we can agree. And I think people use the term bitter baby mama and they throw it around loosely, because let's just stop and put on our humanity cape for just a second. It can be disheartening when you love someone and y'all have a child or children, and then you guys break up and this person is not supporting like you hoped that they would, or that you thought that they would, or like they said that they would. That can be disappointing when a person is not keeping their word, and you're really depending on this, and not only you, your children that you look at every day, that you love dearly. As I said before, I don't think you can ask any child in America, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they say, well, I want to be a struggling single mom. Like, no, right? And sometimes the bitterness it's deserved. Like they have a right to be, I don't want to say deserve, they have a right to be angry, because their lives is stopped. They don't have any free time. They're carrying the load. They're mentally exhausted, and they're just trying to hold it together on some days, all while caring for the child that they did not make by themselves. Like, that can be a little disheartening, right? And oftentimes, more than what people think, it's not bitterness because he's moved on. Like the baby mama, in many cases, been left the relationship, emotionally left the relationship, like it's been done. They don't necessarily want the man back. They just want the man to be there for his children. And they still want to be able to depend on the man that they've created the children with. And so when they see that you guys are out eating at the fancy restaurants, but yet it's like pulling tooth and nails and you've only given me $100 for the month for these kids, well, wow, right? Because if all it took was $200 to take care of the kids for the month, then sure, you've done your part. But we all know that that isn't true. Or, you're out at the clubs getting a section with your homeboys and you haven't even did what you were supposed to do for your child. Like, how does that work? I don't understand the logic in any of that. And people throw around bitter baby mama. It doesn't apply to every situation, for sure. It doesn't apply to every situation. I think that we need to stop looking at it as it's almost like the angry black man thing. You kind of have a right to kind of have your guard up because of the things that have happened to you, And many times, those same type of dads will triangulate the new girlfriend and the baby mama and make the baby mama out to be crazy. Well, if she's crazy, go pick up your kids. You should be down at the court system fighting as if you were Clarissa Shields for a title to get your kids, because I wouldn't want a crazy person raising my kids. Like, whoo, she's got mental issues. Let's go pick up the children just in case she flips, just saying. You know what I mean? And then until the new girlfriend becomes the new baby mama, and then, it's like, oh, yeah. And sometimes these dads are bitter as well. They're bitter because sometimes it's the baby mama got away. So I can tell you this firsthand, how I know, and I'm not talking about my personal situation. Just know that I know. Many times when the man is over there bashing the baby mama, he still loves her. So, just saying, you got to use your discernment with that one, boo. So if you are a young woman and you're dating and, your man has baby mama drama and he's saying she's keeping the kid away from me, but he hasn't mentioned a lawyer that he's contacted or a court date or his game plan to get access to his kids because he's fighting to see his kids, then you may want to rethink that one. I'm just putting you up on game, babe. That's it, Well, that's not the focus here. And it's not to bash the baby daddies, but these are real conversations that we have on this channel as well. And I think that, emotional abuse to a single mother when you are already trying to raise your kids, what do you do? What is the question? The question is, what do you do? I don't know. I'm not an advocate of taking the kids away, but I'm not cool with you sticking around for emotional abuse. And there may become a time where if you're like, enough is enough, I've got to step away from this and put this down because this is driving me insane. I'm going to support that. I'm going to say, I'm going to support that. And I don't even know you, but I'm going to support that because there are too many instances where nowadays moms are snapping and they're hurting their children because they don't even know that they're losing their minds. And when you have the world caving in on you, and then you're fighting with the person that's supposed to be nurturing your kids and loving your kids the way that you do and helping you with you all's children, and then you're working your job and then this economy, or, maybe you've got other stressors, some pretty intense things that you're dealing with. That can be a lot. Straight up. That can be a lot. So what do I always say? Get into therapy. Get into therapy so that you can learn healthy coping mechanisms on how to deal with that, because that is a lot. It's a lot. And unfortunately, people are going to, there are some people that are always going to place the blame on the mom. But I'm going to tell you this, and this is true. If you have your children the majority of the time, you're going to have a greater impact as a parent. Even if the dad was a POS, he was just a complete nutcase. Just his morals was where the Titanic is. They're non-existent, right? Just a total deadbeat. What you do in your household and how you raise your kids and how you talk to your kids and how you handle stress. And if you're not able to, in a good position to be able to teach your kids emotional intelligence, and you're not practicing and exercising it yourself, and you're stressed out and you're yelling at your kids, or you become emotionally unavailable to your kids, or worse, you start resenting the fact that you are a mother because the daddy is just that bad, dealing with him and everything else is just that bad, you are going to have more of an impact on your children than an absent parent or a parent that's barely there. Yeah. Because sometimes, when the kids go over to the dad, just say he does get the kids, every other weekend, and, he does, what he's supposed to, what he's ordered to do, court ordered to do, right? Sometimes those are the fun parents, right? They get to go over dad's house and he may be able to take them to the park. Whereas with you, or he could take them to, to a carnival or whatever, and you may be financially strapped and can't, right? Or he's typically going to be easy on them and not spank them because he doesn't get to see them as much as you. So he's fresh. His nervous system is refreshed every time he sees them. He doesn't have the stress of having those kids day in, day out. So it's almost like babysitting, 4 days out of a month. So typically the non-custodial parent, right, is the fun parent where you have to be the disciplinarian in some cases, a lot of cases, whatever. Yep. So that's why I stress, get yourself into therapy and get you right, because you can't control what the other parent does. And that is a form of emotional abuse if they're just doing things on purpose, like keeping the kid past the time that you asked to bring the baby back because you guys are on a schedule, or you've got something to do and you want to lay down and go to bed and you don't want to have to get up, out of your bed at 11 o'clock at night to get the door and then get the kids settled. It's a lack of respect for what you have going on. It is gaslighting you and calling you crazy when you're asking that this person get on board and that there's a united front for those children, making you feel bad or triangulating you with the new woman, trying to make you jealous, that's a form of emotional abuse. And if you allow it to constantly get to you every time, you need to be in therapy. You need to really start focusing in on ways to deal with that in a more healthy way for yourself, so that, you can see the tricks before they even pull them out of the hat and you already can circumvent that. Like you can be ducking and dodging that, honey. Yep, you sure do. For sure. Yep. And I'm sorry, guys, I have a cold, so if I sound stuffy, please forgive me. But yeah, so keep your head up. Keep your head up. That could be a tough situation. It's very rocky because you don't want your kid, you don't want to be the mom that pull your kids away, right? You typically want, your kid's dad to be involved in love and nurturing. You want that. And you want the support, and you just want to, you want to be able to call and say, hey, the kids need, I got you. No problem. I'll have it to you by this weekend. You want that security, and you want that safety, knowing that you're not in it alone. And sometimes it doesn't always feel that way. You know what I mean? So I get it. But you can't lash out, and you for sure can't keep allowing that to happen. That's where your boundaries have to start coming into play. And if it gets to the point where you're like, as I said earlier, I've got to put it down, before you crash out. I'd rather you do that than to crash out. You know what I mean? Like go off and, start cursing and, just getting completely out of character, or, don't do that. Don't sit in that too long, sweetheart. Come on up out of that, get yourself into therapy, whatever you got to do, whatever coping mechanism you got to do, or ways that you got to handle the things that trigger you. Yep. You got to check on your mental health, mama, and take care of yourself, because your babies are dependent on you. And you want peace in your household at all times, the peace that surpasses all understanding. And if someone is subtracting and they're not adding, there's no value add, then some things need to change, because nothing changes if nothing changes. You know what I mean? Yep. But that was it today. I just wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit. It's a lot. But to my single mommies, you got this, mamas. I love you guys. Till next time. Bye.